everyone, Andrea Mills here. Today I'm going to talk to you guys more about the mental processes of getting organized. And if you didn't see my video yesterday, I talked some about the big picture and figuring that out before you can take the further steps of getting organized. So if you have not watched that video yet, you should probably watch that one first. That was number 18 on my From Under the Vine playlist. So go ahead and check out starting with the big picture. And today I'm going to talk about prioritizing. So making decisions to me is like the hardest thing ever. And when it comes to supper time and I don't have a plan, which is like half the time, sometimes I'm great with getting a menu and all that, and I'll be doing really good, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, things fall apart and I don't make a menu, and like a month has passed since I've last had a menu in our house. And so every night, every day, I have to make a decision. What are we going to have for supper? What are we going to have for supper? What are we going to have for supper? And it's exhausting, and I don't know why I haven't just taken the time to get back on the wagon and make a menu, but I haven't done it. And that's how life is, I think. When there's decisions to be made, it can be so tiring. And I read this book once by Don Aslett, and he is like a cleaning, organizing guy, and he was giving an example of painting houses, and that when there were only 6 colors to choose from, everyone, you picked a color, you got your house painted, and everyone was happy. And then all of a sudden there's, 10 colors, and then 20, and then 50, and now it's an infinite number of colors that you can choose from. And there's so much anxiety over it, because when the possibilities are endless, the possibilities are endless. And making a decision with endless possibilities is a horrible experience. And so that's why, if you want to get organized, you have to be able to narrow your choices, I guess, and that's where prioritizing comes in. And if you can make a lot of the decisions, once ahead of time, it really saves you so much effort down the road. So, yesterday, hopefully you have, or sometime, at least we talked about it yesterday, about thinking about your big picture, what your long-term goals, life goals are. And if you spend time thinking about that, and it may take some time to do that, but once you have thought that through somewhat, you don't have to have the whole thing lined out, but just kind of get an idea, and it'll probably change over time. But once you have that in your mind, it's time to start making a list. And I have done that myself. I'll give several examples of this. Like, there's been many times as a mother that I have felt so totally overwhelmed, and I'm literally like crying tears because I am so frazzled and I don't know what I'm doing, and there's like 100 million things it feels like are going wrong, and I don't even know where to begin to get things under control. And so this is how I have dealt with it, and it is to make a list of everything. So when I'm feeling on one of those days like everything's just totally out of control, I start writing down all the problems that I'm having. Like the kids are leaving trash all over the floor. They're not getting their schoolwork done in time. They, what else might it be? The laundry is out of control. I mean, whatever it is, I make a big long list out of it. And this would be something else that you would do, like if you are thinking about your kids and just growing up, and all the things that you want them to know before they grow up. You want them to know how to check the oil in the car, and they need to know how to make an appointment, and they need to know, of course, their academic skills, but just all those other life skills that you want to make sure that they know. And it's like, it can be overwhelming when you think about all the stuff that they need to know, but you just make a list. So you're going to have the list of everything that's wrong. You're going to have a list of everything that you want the kids to know. Here's one, a list of all the chores that need to be done on a regular basis. So, obviously the dishes are going to have to be done every day, and laundry's going to have to be done regularly, and those kinds of things. But even other stuff like maybe, washing the light fixtures or washing doors and all those kinds of things. So all of that stuff, that would be a third list, all of those kind of chore things. And I'm not even sure, you might even have, like, we have a home business, and so maybe business goals might be another list. And so you're going to end up with a whole bunch of lists. And it's going to freak you out because there's going to be like, oh my gosh, this can never happen. There's just way too much. But this is where you are going to match up your list with what your actual life goals are. And it's interesting how a lot of times when you start looking and really thinking about it, all of a sudden you realize that maybe some of the things that you want to do or think you should do aren't actually relevant anymore. And another thing that you could be doing is listing all of the activities that you want to be involved in with your family, you know, the clubs and the sports and all those kinds of things. And if you have a list of those too, and start looking like what actually meets the goals that we have for our family. And I know for us, we really feel it's important to take care of our parents and our grandparents because, you know, they took care of us when we were young, and it's our turn now to help them whenever they need us. And so always they're going to be a priority over just about anything else. And when we have too many other things, then it's hard to drop something to take care of them when they need us. And so it's not just thinking about activities in the sense of organized things, but thinking about those kinds of activities that need to be done, like going and visiting grandparents and, you know, cooking maybe for someone who needs help, and thinking in that service-minded way. What kinds of things fit with building those relationships and doing those things that are important to us, and then start crossing off stuff that you absolutely know doesn't really fit with what is important to your family. And one of the things, we were talking about this with the videos we were watching for our Charlotte Mason homeschool group thing. She was talking about music and how, you know, your kids should learn from a master and all that. And I totally agree with everything. It was great. But I know that as much as we enjoy listening to music, that Tom and I are not particularly musical people, and I did enjoy playing the piano when I was growing up, and we hope to get a piano someday, but at this point music is just not, it's not a priority for us. And so here's the thing about being able to appreciate something without actually having to own it yourself. And that can be in the sense of a physical item, like you know, you see something nice at the store and you can appreciate and look at it and think how beautiful it is without actually having to buy that object. And you can listen to someone else's child play beautiful music without having to feel the need to get your child to do the same thing. And it kind of makes me think of, speaking of buying things, going to Hobby Lobby. I love going to Hobby Lobby. And I go in there and there's just like 10 million things that I want to buy because it's just, everything is so nice. And if I don't have an idea ahead of time of what it is that I'm looking for, who knows what I might come home with. And that's kind of what I mean here, that there's so many wonderful things in the world that we can do, but we have to be able to narrow down our vision of what actually fits and what we're actually going to bring home. Because if you buy everything, for one thing, you're going to run out of money, and the second thing is you have to figure out where to put it when you get it home. And we all only have a finite amount of space. We all only have 24 hours in a day. We all only have so much energy. And you can feel a lot of guilt feelings, especially when you see some other family doing some amazing thing with their kids that, oh, we should be doing that too. And don't fall into that trap. And if you're in that trap, let go of it right now, because you're not everyone else. And like I said before, you get your own family priorities, your own personality, what's important to you, your values, and try to shed as much of that other stuff without any qualms as you can, because we want to get down to a very small amount of things that you're doing. We don't want a list full. We want to bring it down to a very small list. Let's see. So yes, that would be the next thing on my list to tell you about, which is identifying the most important thing. So this is something that I always do on those days when I'm feeling totally overwhelmed and I'm crying and I like feel like I want to run away a little bit. After I've made my list of everything that's wrong, I then look at it and I think, if I can only fix one of these things, what would make me feel the best if I could get a handle on this, or what would have the most impact on us if I got a handle on this thing, or whatever, whatever. What is the top priority? And that is the only thing I'm going to work on. And that's the same with your other lists. You're going to identify that one thing. If you can only get one thing off of each one of those lists, what would it be? And you write down your number one. You've already erased the stuff that you know doesn't fit, and you found your number one. And then I go ahead and I might pick a 2 and a 3. But I'm not going to count on those things happening. I'm just going to focus on number 1, and 2 and 3 are going to be bonuses if I have the time and it works out. I've already touched on this a little bit, but when you're setting priorities, to me it's really important to think about the eternal versus the temporal. And people are the only eternal things on this earth. And so the time that we spend in relationship with them and in serving them is the only time that actually is going to have an eternal consequence. And for us, this is something that we decided as we set our own kind of our family life goals, is that people are always going to come before projects and before things. And our house is a house where people are here almost every day. It's an extremely rare day that we don't have visitors come by. And if someone shows up, that's the priority for us. And that means, if I had a project plan, that's going to have to go by the wayside. And the kids, it depends on, the older kids continue working on their schoolwork, but if I'm helping the little kids, then that's just it for the day. If we need to, we stop and we spend time with this person. And it's really important for other people, I think, to know that they are valuable. And most people don't want to, hog all your time. But sometimes, like, for instance, my grandma, I tell her all the time to call me whenever you want to, because whatever I'm doing can always wait. And she gets lonely and she feels sad sometimes and she can't drive anymore, and it's hard for me to get over to see her a lot. And so I just say, just pick up the phone and call, and she does, and she'll call me. And I honestly do everything I can to make her continue talking and to have that time with me, because she is far more important than anything else. And I know that there are times, plenty of times, where it's hard because I have, I'm excited to work on something, or I'm really busy and I'm feeling a time pressure. That's usually when I start like having freak out moments, is when there's a time pressure. But this is something God's really been working on me, of just letting it go and realizing there's always enough time to do what He wants me to do. And if I didn't have the time for it, then it wasn't something that He wanted me to do, and I need to just let it go. So as you prioritize these things, thinking first about spending time with other people and what's going to potentially have, a relational, eternal value. And I guess, so I would say, I love being crafty and making things and doing things, but those things have to take a back seat to the time that I spend with the kids doing things that they need to have done. And of course I try to do both things, and we're going to talk about that hopefully maybe tomorrow on how I accomplish that. But in the big scheme of things, I could live in a dump, I could live in a mess, and none of that really matters as long as I am building those relationships and spending time talking to my children and teaching them about God and helping them to know truth and just loving them. And so, always keep that in mind as you work on these things, especially because sometimes the more organized you can get, or do get, the more mean you can become. I don't know if that's the right word, but like you start thinking that I have to have things all nice, and I want them nice, and I want things to go orderly and scheduled, and if they don't, then you become like the Wicked Witch, and we don't want that to happen. And it will happen. It'll happen But when it happens, you have to like be able to look back and find that what's the big picture here. Let's get the big picture back in our minds and take it down a notch. I guess that also then goes into my next topic, which was just thinking about that contentment. That if we have food and clothes, then we should be content with that. And I always take that in the realm of getting things done or being organized. If I have meals on the table and the laundry's done, I'm going to try to be content with that. I'm not going to beat myself up if a million other things went undone for the day that I wanted to get done. Or, if as I said, things are needing repairs needing done, or stuff I want to make hasn't happened. I need to be okay with it. And I would go so far as to say, if you're not okay with it, you need to throw your list away until you become okay with it and become all right with the fact that things are not perfect, and that's all right. Find that acceptance and find that contentment, and when you do get to that place where you can be in the middle of a wreck and be happy anyway, then you're ready to go ahead back and start again, making a new list and starting over. And that would then, my last topic, I guess, is the idea of maintenance versus progress. And so as you're listing your priorities, I like to put a P or an M next to it. This is especially on projects that I want to get done. So I actually will go, I just did this last month. I walked around the house and around the yard with my clipboard and some notebook paper, and I just start looking, and I write down everything I think of that needs to be done. That room needs painted. I want to build this new thing. I want to, we had to repair our little wall around our plum tree, and just anything, any random thing that I notice that needs done, I write it down. Then I put a P or an M next to it. If this is a maintenance job, then I put an M. If it's making progress, like something new, then it gets a P next to it. So I would say maybe painting a room that needs to be repainted would be a maintenance job. Building something new that we haven't had yet would be a progress job. And of course, this is all subjective, so whatever, you could list it however you would think on your own thing. But I like to do that because I feel like maintaining things is more important than getting new things. So that's appreciating what you already have, maintaining what you already have, being content with what you already have before you start taking on more new things. And sometimes the new thing is going to be helpful to maintaining something, and of course this is like no hard and fast rule, but as I prioritize, I do try to think about what is just maintenance and what is going to actually cause me in some ways new work that didn't exist before, because as soon as you own something new, you have something new to maintain. So let's just maintain what we have first before I start getting new stuff to have to deal with. Let's see, did I get everything? I guess so. So tomorrow I'm going to try to talk about actually bringing this down to a daily level. So, the big picture, we're talking lifespans. This level might be more in the area of what is done over the course of a year or 2 years. What kinds of activities is our family going to be involved in? What kind of projects are we going to do that fit with those life goals? And so tomorrow we'll talk more about how we actually work that into a daily schedule or a daily routine, and try to get organized. So if you have not subscribed, I would love it if you would subscribe, and otherwise we will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.